Okay, perfect. So this conversation tonight is with Dr. Stephen Jones. He is an author, he's a speaker, he works for a college, and so we're super excited to dive in and to be able to talk to him tonight. But before we do that, I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself for those of you who may not know me, who may not be familiar with SheEdits and our program and what we offer. So my name is Brianna Membres, and I'm the founder of SheEdits, Graduate Debt Free with SheEdits LLC. I have been working with scholarships and helping students win scholarships for about 4 years now, and we provide the whole range of scholarship services here at SheEdits. So we help students find, apply for, and win scholarships. We provide everything you need, A to Z, when it comes to the scholarship process. So we've helped students all over the country win right at $2 million and grant scholarships and award money. Glory be to God. So it's been such an awesome journey, and I'm super excited that I get to continue it. If you need scholarship assistance, if you need help winning money for school, no matter where you're going, I always say the common denominator is that you're going to have to pay for it, or somebody's going to have to pay for it. So if you are looking for scholarships, if you're wanting somebody else to fund your education, the best place to start is our so make sure to just go. All you have to do to register is just go to sheeditsllc.com, or you can go to learn.sheeditsllc.com, and you'll be able to lock in your spot there. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Dr. Jones introduce himself. He is the man of the hour, and he is going to provide a ton of great material and a ton of great tips on how to study and create study habits that work. So not just study, but study effectively to make sure that you are getting through college and you are doing it in a way that is the most effective and where you'll be the most successful. So thank you, Dr. Jones, for bearing with me through the technical difficulties. Thank you for being here on this evening. It's such a pleasure to have you. Can you just start by telling us who you are, what you do, and where you live?
Okay, so I'll start with where I live. I'm right outside of Philadelphia, but I grew up in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is my home, but I enjoy doing things nationally to help students succeed and to graduate from college. I was the first person in my family out of 6 children to even think about going into college, and my parents didn't have any experience with college life itself. So in taking that journey, I realized that so many students don't have the experience or have the family support or individuals who they know who've gone to college. And when I got to college, I actually was connected with a program called Act 101 here in Pennsylvania for low-income first-generation college students. And the ironic part of this is that this program that served those who were first in their families to go to college, I ended up working at a university in the program as the assistant director, and then I became the director of this program for the students that were just like me who needed that support. And I spent a lot of my career in the STEM area, with engineering being the focus of helping those students who are in K-12, who want to go into science and technology and math and really love engineering, to have an opportunity to do it. So I've worked at Philadelphia University, Drexel University, and now I'm at Villanova University here outside of Philadelphia as an associate dean in the College of Engineering. And I've been here for 18 years. So it's been a long time, but I have a lot of students who are alum of the institutions, who are sending their children to the university. I have Saturday programs and summer programs. I make sure the students who are in the College of Engineering stay in the College of Engineering, don't transfer out. I make sure that they have enough support and guidance, and kind of like a parent away from the parent, giving them advice as well. And then I own SAJ Publishing Education Services, where I've written several books, The 7 Secrets of How to Study, The Parent's Ultimate Education Guide, and The Ultimate Scholarship Guide. We're talking about scholarships and what you do. But I think that just giving a practical hands-on strategy, because most schools don't teach you how to study. They teach you about their subject, but they don't teach you how to study that subject. So I find that a lot of students, especially the first year of college, or even going to a trade school, don't really have a study habit strategy. And so that's what I've been, really focused on. I believe if you have a better foundation, it's kind of like building a house. If you build a good foundation under the house, then the house will stand when the storms come along, when the things get difficult, to have that foundation to be successful. And so that's my goal. My goal is to reduce the dropout rate, specifically as it relates to students of color going into high school. A lot of our students unfortunately drop out of high school, and they have great gifts and potential. It's just no one's there to kind of give them the skill sets that they can be successful in high school. So that's my passion, working with the college students as well, to help them and give them strategies that, again, I wish I had when I was starting.
Absolutely. I love that. So as you all heard, he knows what he's talking about in a nutshell. So again, make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you're sharing this, because we're about to be a very powerful session. So I know you mentioned some of the books that you authored, and tonight we're going to specifically focus on 7 secrets on how to study. So why did you author it? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but what really gave you that drive and that final push to say, okay, I'm going to write a book on how to study effectively?
But we, again, I have to go back to this program that I talked about earlier. We had a summer bridge program, and those are programs basically that help students to take some classes over the summer before they start college, and it gives them a good boost before they actually start college. So I'm advertising here. If you hear of a summer program for your child who is about to go to college, definitely put them in that program. It's going to help them to graduate. It's going to give them a good foundation and understanding what college is all about. So, but I in that program, I used to use a book called The Master Student, and it was about 400 pages on how to study. And I said to myself, even though this is good information, it's too much. The students feel overwhelmed. They would carry it like it was a heavy dictionary because it was a big, thick book. And I decided I was going to write something that was more manageable, that in 120 pages, no chapters more than 10 pages, but there's interactive things for them to do as they're reading through it. That was really practical, and that every chapter would have a college student that shares what they did to earn A's in their class. But I wanted to give the students a tool that they could use right away, that it wouldn't take them a lot of time to get started with improving their study habits, started with improving their time management and setting up their goals for the semester. So I want to give them something practical that will help them to easily make that transition. And I think I've been able to really get to a lot of students and give them the help that they needed.
That's awesome. I know it's so much better to have a more lightweight, portable, and
Yes.
readable guide than another textbook, right? So going back to that 400-page guide did you actually read through the whole thing, or?
Oh, yeah, I mean, when I was giving it to the students, I certainly did my best to get through as much of it as I possibly could. We actually had a course. They had to take a course with this
Got it.
particular book. So the instructor would go through it with them. And by the end of 5 or 6 weeks, they would get pretty far into the book.
Okay, got it. I got it. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about your book a little bit more. So we know it covers 7 secrets on how to study. So without giving away the whole book, because I want people to go out and actually get the book, but can you give a high level overview of the strategies that you cover?
Yeah, so the first chapter is really on just how to organize your studies. And a lot of us who have had various courses, we just randomly, we might get the syllabus or we might get the book and we might read, but it talks about the importance of having an organized plan as you're studying, not just randomly studying, but knowing what you're going to read, how, what you're going to learn, understand as you're going through the various texts, the things that you've written down from your course, and to actually have notes that you can review that will help you to be successful as you're going through and you're learning. So I talk about that, having a plan. The second thing I talk about a lot is time management. Now, I always ask how many students out there in the Procrastinators Club, and a lot of students raise their hands and say, yeah, I know, I know I should get it done. And sometimes you can get away with that in high school, and you get so trained that, oh, I can always get away with procrastinating, and go to college and try the same habits. and start seeing the results in the grades. So I thought it was really important to put something in the book around how to manage your time, how to set priorities, how to set up a schedule. And now we have not only schedules that you can, daily planners, but you can get it electronically. You can get alerts. There's so many different ways that you can kind of manage what your priorities are, your times are. So I definitely push that whole electronic aspect now along with that. And the thing that's different again between high school and college is that you might have classes. I just talked to a student today. Her classes are from 9 to basically 12 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So the rest of the afternoon is, you can either consider it free time or you can consider it study time, get projects done, get labs, but you have freedom to decide what you're going to do. Other students have classes on Tuesday and Thursday. It might be that their classes are from 12 to 3. But so you have the morning to do some things. So the main thing is setting this priority, managing your time, and knowing what you're going to do. And for every hour in class, you should be spending an hour and a half or two studying, reading, working on problems. All those things add up to a concrete set of things you're learning for that specific class. So I talk about that. I talk about test taking strategies, and my goal is to. A lot of students have test taking anxiety, so to give them some strategies on how to take a test. That's what I put in the book, as well as just how to read, how to understand and comprehend what you're reading. I remember my son was in high school, and one day he was reading this book, and I said, "Well, tell me what you learned from what you read," and he couldn't tell me. Well, he said he read the whole thing, but comprehension is so important. So I take that information and I'm able to comprehend it. And then when the professor asks me a question, I'm able to give that back to them. So like having that strategy around, I'm not just reading the book to say I read it and I got it out of the way. What have you learned from it? How can you use it? I wanted to be very practical with that, with the book. So those are some of the main areas that I've been focusing on with it, and just trying to make sure that one more other strategy is, where do you study? Do you study, let's say you're a high school student, are you studying in a place that's really distracting in your house? Or do you have a set place where you're not distracted while you're studying? So you do have a plan for that. And I will tell you, I grew up with a family of 4 brothers and sisters. There was a lot of noise going on in that house. And I had to find a place where I would not be distracted, even when in the midst of that environment.
Absolutely. I completely understand. So thank you for sharing those strategies. So is your book geared more toward high school students or college students, or both?
Good question. So it's geared to middle school, high school, and first-year college students. So it's easy reading, but practical things that they can do as they're planning their study strategies. It gives them perspective of one of the things that students often run into is they have an instructor that they don't understand, or the approach that they're using. Maybe their learning style is different than the instructor is presenting it. So they might be a visual learner and the instructor is just lecturing the whole time. So, I try to give strategies on how can you take that different learning teaching style and make it something of your own so that you can actually learn it. And I think that today there's so many videos and so many different websites that you can go to get additional information. And the students who are getting A's, they're taking the next step. Even though they've been given an assignment to read X chapter, they're reading something else about it, or they're reviewing something else, or they're meeting with another instructor. So they're going the next step. Those are students who seem to excel and don't have a limited experience.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So I know earlier, like when you were talking about college students who seem to have free time after their classes are over, because I remember that. I remember having maybe 2 classes a day, and then the world was my oyster, or so it would seem. So do you find that to be a hard transition for students coming from high school to college? Because, high school days, they're in class from, 7 to 2 or 8 to 3 or whatever. And so, and it's very structured. They go from class to class to class. So
Mhm.
I find a lot of first year students kind of struggling with that time management piece. And how would you recommend they combat that and structure all of their quote unquote free time during the day?
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment period to having the quote unquote free time, because that time isn't free. I think one of the things that a student can do is identify, what am I going to actually do during this time? I'm taking a look at all of the syllabus that I have, and I know they all have different assignments. I have to figure out how I'm going to do it. And I always recommend that right after the class for that day, that's the best time to do the review. That's the best time to start preparing for the next class, because it's fresh on your mind. If you wait a day or two later, then you'll run up into, okay, I got the class again. I didn't read the book, or I didn't, do the problems for the class. So the best thing to do is to actually have set aside time after the classes are done for you to study. Now, you might take, there's a lunch period, take your lunch period. Don't make a vacation.
Right.
you know. Um, and sometimes you do have to study in bits. So let's say you study for 30 minutes, take a little break, study for another 30 minutes. Sometimes that's better for certain students. The time of day that you study. Some students say, I can study late at night, but one of the keys to success in college is getting rest. And if you're studying, you're studying a lot of late nights just because you're doing other things, it's about like, what is your priority, and making sure that you have that. So, if you have that free time, there's things that you can be doing. You can do the research, you can be reading, you can also be meeting with your instructor. That they have office hours. So set up times to meet with your instructor during office hours to go over problems that you have, or things that you don't understand, or maybe you're giving them a sample of what you've written. So hours with the instructor. And a lot of times students think that office hours are for the instructor to sit there and do whatever they want. But no, it's really for you to take advantage of tutoring. That's another thing that could be part of the hours that you as far as studying. So you might need to see with that tutor, and it's a smart student that goes and gets help when they need it. Don't wait till last minute. I find that often happens too, for students who are just the brightest in their school. They graduate top 10 in their class. I should never need a tutor. But then they get to college and find out their math or their science wasn't compared to this college level. And they wait and wait. And next thing you know, they got their first D or their first C because they didn't reach out to get the help. So don't be embarrassed. Don't let your pride get in the way. You are paying, your tuition is paying for you to have tutors available to you and to help you. And in our university, we have a learning resource center. So there's a whole staff. That's all they do all day, is help students to get ready for their classes, learn how to study, manage their time. But take advantage of the resources that are available to you. If you're in high school, the counselor might do a number of these things. And my counselor might help you with time management or organizing or sharing with you some study habits. So take advantage of the resources that are available to you that can help you plan and map out how you're going to use your time.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. I was just talking to a group of students today, and you're pretty much echoing what I said earlier about using the resources that are available to you on campus, whether that be the professors, your counselors, the tutoring centers. I spent a lot of time in those tutoring centers. Like you said, during that time after class, I would leave class and I would go to my tutoring center and I would get the help that I needed on campus. And it's something that I also did in high school. So by the time I got to college, I wasn't ashamed of going to a tutor, but there should never be any shame around that, because like I told a group of students earlier, nobody is strong in every single thing. And so recognize what your weak points are and get the help that you need. And like you said, the time in between classes or the days you don't have classes are the absolute perfect time to do that. So absolutely, I 100% agree with you. So What can students do, or where can they go if they have trouble concentrating? So I know some students, they can lock in and they can focus on something, but
Yes.
there are a lot of students, especially in this day and age, where our attention is so divided and so distracted. How can students who get easily distracted effectively study?
Yeah, so they're again, in terms of resources, they're learning resources centers. Some colleges have disability services where they look at maybe a person has issues with dyslexia and other types of um, learning challenges. So their disabilities office will handle that as well. And taking advantage of counseling. Sometimes you just need to go talk to a counselor to help you get out of some habits that you've had. You need to work them through other things that might be stressing you out so that you can't focus the way that you need to focus. And so I'm always saying to you that there are counselors here to give you a hand now. Again, don't wait till last minute because all the counselors will be taken up and you'll be like, oh, I've been trying to get a counselor for 4 weeks and no one's available. Yes, you waited to the last minute and they're already taken. So you need to do that there early and also have understanding of what your priorities are. The more that you have made some decisions about why you're in college, that's the big question. Why are you in college? And that will drive you to do the other kinds of things that you need to do to get the help that you need to take advantage of the resources that are available to you if you have your why. Because there's going to be a time when you're taking classes that one course is just so difficult, you might even feel like giving up. But if you persist, if you get the help you need, you can be successful in it. And sometimes that's the only instructor that's teaching the class. So you can't get around that particular instructor. But you need to surround yourself with people who've already taken the class, who've been successful. You need to find out if they have a graduate student that could explain some of the subjects better to you. But be your biggest advocate for your own success. Don't wait for it to come to you. You have to very often go after it and get the help that you need.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. I'm going to write that down. Be your own advocate for your success. That's a great thing. I'm gonna hang that up somewhere. That's really good. I love that.
Yeah.
So is there a one size fits all way of studying?
Wow, what a question. I would say um, there's some fundamental things that you need to do
Okay.
as you're studying. And one of the things that I think is so important is understanding the terms that relate to your subject. So if you're taking psychology, if you're taking geology, if you're taking some of the thermodynamics, whatever the courses are, some students don't understand the terms, and that's why they're getting stuck. So I think one of the fundamental things that you need to do is to make sure that you understand the terms. And if you don't think you understand the terms, again, go meet with the instructor, try to get some clarity on it. Sometimes a fellow student that's one of the top students in the class, they understand it better. And so, or maybe they've had an experience with it in high school. So, sometimes connecting with your peers. And one of the things that I didn't mention earlier was study groups. One of the ways that I got through college was getting together with other students who helped me. We were sitting in the same class, but they heard something I didn't hear, or they understood something that I didn't understand, or the same way I could help somebody else in that group. So we would have groups of, I would say 4 to 5 students that would come together once or twice a week and study to get through a class. And so you might have to initiate the study group.
Yeah.
Or you might, on the side here that people are organizing a study group, and then you take a part in that. But the study groups are so effective in understanding the various aspects and requirements of the class and for getting help.
And that was one of the questions I was going to ask. What are your thoughts about study groups? And now, have you seen any virtual groups, or is that a thing? Because again, when I was in school, that was not that long ago, but I graduated in 2017. So this was pre-COVID, before Zoom. We weren't doing too many things like this virtually, but is that a thing now, or is that something that you're seeing or that you would recommend, having a virtual study group, or do you think it's better to study in person?
Oh, I'm kind of biased. I think studying in person is a good thing. There's just like a whole different element of your interaction and thoughts, and just I would say I'm not against online
Hmm.
because I do it every day, all day. I'm doing it right now.
Right.
So, but I think it's really important to get together with people. There's just some things that might be said that because you were online, you didn't think about it.
Right.
But because you're in this group, you bought one person bought one thing up, one person bought another thing up. Next thing you know, now you have more answers than you expected. So taking advantage of that as well. So yes, absolutely. Um, I would say I'm kind of like 60-40. 60, let's meet in person, 40,
Yeah.
if you can't, do it the other way. Well, actually, there are students who they they get tutors. Maybe the college isn't offering the tutoring for a specific subject. So there are tutoring services where you can actually call and go online and get help. So again, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, as a college student, I just love being with the college students
Yeah.
and
I get
sharing.
I I agree. But like you said, it's hard because we do so many things online, so we know there's benefit to, but I do think those in-person conversations can be more beneficial, you're more locked in to where you're at. So thank you for sharing. So I think this is a good question. So in your eyes, what would a great study session look like? Like if you were to look over the shoulder of a student or a group of students who was studying, what would make you smile and say, yes, that was a great session? What would they be doing?
Okay. So first of all, they would know what they needed to study.
Mm,
So, it's chapter 1 through chapter 3 that I'm really clear on that's what I have to study. They have a place to study. There's an actual location that where they go to this place, they know where all their books are, they know if they have an iPad or a laptop, they're not fumbling to find these things. There's a clear place where they go to study. And then they have the resources and things that they need there. So whether it's they've already outlined which videos they need to watch, or if they need to review, sometimes the instructor actually will videotape the class, and now you can go back and review the videotape from the class. So that might be part of your study. So just seeing a student do that means that they're taking the next level. They're setting aside time to get that additional information or to make sure that they didn't miss anything for the class. Other resources, even though there's one book or two books for the class, there may be other resources that you can take advantage of. And now they have electronic books, so you could download books onto your iPad that you can read from your library. They're books that you could download and read those in addition to the books that have been assigned. So you're that student that has taken the additional effort to make sure they have all the resources necessary to be successful.
I love that.
As part of that session, also they go to get help. So if they have people in mind, if I get stuck on this problem, if I get I don't understand something, I'm going to call up this student, I'm going to call that student. They already have in mind when they're sitting down to study, who are the people who can help them get through this particular chapter. And so you actually have it planned out. And then going back to study groups, you might have an hour where you're studying by yourself, but then you have an hour where there's a study group, and then you get together with that group in a place where you're actually going to study. Because a study group can become a vacation because you're busy having conversations and having fun, but you're not actually being productive
Right.
in the study session. So really have a plan for each person that's in that group. Let's say you have a study group and there are 3 chapters. Each of you are assigned one chapter. and you're reviewing that chapter. And then when you come together with your study group, you're talking about what you learned and what things you think are important that they need to understand from that chapter. Now you're making it really productive for everybody. And then you can pick up a few pointers from the chapters that your group members have read as well. So I think it's a combination of things. You have your own study time, but you also have these other times where you're getting together with other students. And that's what makes college fun too. Getting together and studying together and helping each other. It becomes kind of more like the family environment from using that approach.
I love that. I think that was just a wonderful answer. I hope everybody took notes on that part. That was great. Somebody in the comments as you were speaking, their question was, what are essential tools or materials needed for an ideal study session?
Oh,
I think
good.
you covered them, but do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm definitely, now we have iPads and we have laptops, there are electronic pencils that can record things. You could take notes now. You can actually write on your iPad or your laptop. So those things that allow you to be more interactive, I think, are important resources. Of course, you want to have, your pens and paper and resources like that. Also, make sure that you have access to the resources that may be in your library. Go to the library, actually talk to the librarian about all the things that are still there. Now, I know a lot of libraries, they no longer have the bookshelves like they used to, but the librarians can put you to all kinds of resources that can help you as you're studying, things that you can take advantage of as part of the electronic aspect of it. So some of it may mean, even though you're studying, you have these materials in front of you, you have your binder with materials in front of you. There are some times where you need to get up and get out to get things to help you to study. Depends on the subject too, because of course, engineers are building and creating, the chemists are in the labs, so they have lab time. So it kind of depends on that too. But to know, every class has a syllabus, and in that syllabus, they'll usually tell you what you need. If you're an art student, there's certain types of things that you're going to need for all your artwork. So you have to be clear on that's something that you're going to have to purchase beyond what was given to you in the class. So, knowing each class, knowing what the requirements are, that will help you determine kinds of materials that you might need.
I hope everybody's taking notes because you are just dropping so many gems, so much wisdom. I love this. I wish I had used some of these techniques, when I was in school. These would have been so helpful. So I love it. So another question I was wondering about are so how is studying, well, let me add one more tip. So I'm going to ask my question, but one, just to add on to what you said, I know that another way to study with your study groups or to do some pre-work before your study session is to all share a Google Doc during class that you all are taking notes on it or that you all are asking questions on. I think that's a really great way to collaborate during class and then go back after class and review the material. So, it's super easy. Just create a Google Doc and then you can share it to other people in your group or in your class and then all work together and all be on the same page during the class. So that's just one tip I picked up somewhere and I thought it was good that I wanted to share. But going back to my question, how is studying high school material different than studying college material? I know you said your book is geared toward middle, high school, and first year students, but I know it's a big jump from high school to college for a lot of students. So how does studying look different for those two groups?
Yeah, I think the demands of reading is so much bigger in the college level than in high school. That's the biggest complaint I get all the time from the students is, well, I've never read so much in my entire life, or I've never had to write a research paper that was more than 5 pages. And now some of the professors are starting off at 15 pages for the research paper. So for the student to think of like, what do I write about on 15 pages of research? they may not be aware of that. So if that's the case, there's usually a writing center at your college. So, take advantage of that, or if that's offered through one of the English teachers at your high school and you're given a paper to write. Now, try to write more than, if the teacher says you can go beyond 5 pages, go beyond 5 pages. Like, practice writing more than you're accustomed to writing, because a lot of times that is the biggest challenge. Like, how do I think up, or how do I outline a paper that's that's going to be required in college? What you can do as a high school student, I found that a lot of the high schools have a list of summer reading, like books that you can be reading and some of them require reading for the next academic year. So I think it's really good for a student to take advantage of that list that they see and read some of those books that are required. And maybe if you can't read all of them over the summer, you have those books available to you during the academic year that you keep reading to try to increase your reading, increase your speed, knowing that it's going to happen, and increase your comprehension. So that means, again, back in my day, we used to have the dictionary next to us and we would go to the dictionary. Now you can go to Google, and if you don't understand a term, you can get that knowledge right away. So I encourage students to make sure that they're not only just reading, but comprehending. And then you're going to definitely take a big leap from high school to college in terms of that. Because I work with engineering and science students, I also will say that students who are, let's say, taking pre-calculus or calculus, sometimes they struggle because they didn't cover all the chapters of math. Maybe they took calculus and there were 15 chapters. Their high school covered 10 or covered 8. And so now they're coming into college thinking they know the whole subject, but they find out that they don't know all of it.
Really good point.
Yeah, so it's understanding, taking things, even though you're required to do those 8 chapters, go beyond that. Take the initiative to do that, because that's what college is, more than what you've seen in high school.
I love that. And I do remember the reading. I absolutely remember all of the reading, that was definitely more. So thank you for sharing that. And I do see the questions in the comments. So we'll definitely make sure to get to those for those who are watching. I do see your questions. I just want to ask a few, some more. So students who are excelling in a class, or they're in a class that comes really easily to them, should they study at all, or and just going to the class, doing the homework, and getting the good grade that's coming so easily to them?
Yes, so that sometimes happens in a couple of ways. One, student had dual enrollment. What is dual enrollment? They were in high school, but their high school actually paid. If they wanted to take a course that wasn't offered at the high school, they could take it at a local community college. So that student has already had some of those college level classes, and that may be the reason why they're feeling confident that they don't need to study as much as the next student. So that's one student. Then there's a student that, they are a very, very bright student, and they feel as though they can, and because they have really rigorous courses. Maybe they had AP or advanced placement courses while they were in high school. So when they get into that first part of their class, they understand most of it. They've seen it before. It's not new to them. But you take a risk that when material all starts to become new, and you're going to continue to use the same habits of not really studying, not really investing in yourself, that you start struggling in the class. So I say to every student, regardless of how knowledgeable you think you are, it's still good for you to do review, still good for you to read through that chapter. And if you really have it down, one of the things you can do is tutor, like become a tutor and help other students. That's another good way for you to give out, but also for you to refresh your own memory toward being successful in college. So don't, There'll be subjects where, yes, maybe you are very strong, but there'll also be other subjects where it'll all be brand new to you. So just getting in that habit of reading, studying, understanding, I think is so important.
I love that. And one of the things that I've heard and that I believe is true, if you know how to teach something, then you'll be able to see it, how well you know the material. And so I think becoming a tutor is a great idea, because if you truly do have a subject down, then the tutoring should be easy. If you start to try to tutor a student and you're realizing that you're struggling with the concept, you may need to go back and study some more yourself. But yeah, I think teaching is a great way to see if you really know a subject or not. So let's I'm just gonna ask a few more questions. A couple
Okay.
questions about parents and their involvement when it comes to helping their students study. So my first question is, what advice would you give parents who see their students struggling in a certain class? How can they best support them? And I first want to talk about students who are living under the same roof as the parents, so maybe middle or high school students. How can parents support struggling students in their studies? And then I also would like for you to answer parents who have students who are away at college, but who still are seeing their grades, have access to their transcripts, and they see their students are struggling, but they're,
Mhm.
hundreds of miles away. How can they best support those students?
Right. So the K-12 student, um, I think it's so important for the parent to know the instructors or the teachers at the school and know what they require of the student. And many of them today, you can go online with them. You can meet them through email and ask them questions. Definitely show up for parents' nights.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how powerful it is when they have a parents' night and the parent shows up, in terms of the way that the instructor looks at your student. So be that parent that's there, asking questions. And it's very funny. Sometimes when you're meeting with the instructor, they'll tell you something that they notice about your child. And you say, I noticed that too, but I didn't know what to do about it. And so that's what you want to get the advice of their educator. So they should be able to give you some advice and tips and strategies on certain things that your child needs to learn, or maybe things that they can work on. That sometimes for parents, it's like, well, I didn't learn that well when I was in school. So sometimes the teachers will have, for example, early hours. This child can come early to school or stay sometime after school to get additional help. But you as a parent have to be the support and initiator of that. There again in a family, if there may be a husband and wife, it may not be. But what is your strength? Your strength as maybe math, your strength might be science, your strength might be writing, but there may be other areas where you're not as strong. So identify the resources and those individuals who could be helpful in those other subjects. Sometimes there are college students that are available who wouldn't mind helping with your child or mind tutoring your child as well. They're closer to the knowledge that your student is getting right now. So sometimes it's a great advantage to take look at a local college. They may have some students that are just looking for a few dollars that can help your student as well. So, taking advantage, the parent role has to be active rather than passive, not saying that the school, expecting the school to do everything, but to be engaged with the school to make sure your child's getting the best possible opportunities. For another example is that asking them about honors classes and advanced placement classes and things like that, you have to actually ask them, because they might not tell you or make you aware of that these things are available to your child, these additional opportunities to learn at an even higher level. That may not even be something that's in the mind of individuals in school unless you ask. So,
Absolutely.
so that's the one from the kind of the K-12 side.
Yep, yep.
As far as the college environment, you can identify in what are all the resources, because the colleges mostly list, here are all the things, support services that we offer, whether it's a writing center. We actually have a speaking center. Like if a student has trouble speaking in front of groups, they actually will train you and help you with that. We have a learning resource center. We have a tutoring center. We have, right on our campus, we have something called the the Center for Access and Success. It's a center where students come together who may be first generation or low income, and they get supported in going through. So as you're going on, if you're a parent, you're going on a college tour, these are questions you want to ask. What are the support services that are available for my student? If you already know that they have a disability, then check into that. You know they're going to need more time on the test. The institution might have some procedures you have to do before they can get that additional time on the test. So know what those things are and what the resources are. But all colleges should have a disability services office because it's a federal requirement that they make sure that they meet the needs of students who have some of those special needs. So it's kind of a tenuous situation because you can't call up a professor. It's the student and the professor have to get that knowledge and work together through those various classes. And also students, if they don't sign, there's a form that they have to sign and say that information about themselves can be released to their parents. So that's a whole nother element out there in terms of, wow, I want to find out what my child is doing. Your child has to tell you how things are going on with their classes because there's legal reasons why their information can't be released. But you certainly can search for the resources. I am in a center. I'm one of the associate deans. You can talk to some of the associate deans and find out what's available for your son or your daughter. They're always, in the various colleges, we have liberal arts, engineering, nursing. So it depends on the colleges themselves. But you can have knowledge about all these centers and resources, but if your child refuses to go take advantage of them, then it's not going to be helpful. So I think it's good to have that conversation before they even start college, is to say to them, you might need help. And it's a smart student that goes to get help. And and you can outline together, what are all the resources that are available? And I go back to what I said earlier. If you as a parent can get your child into a summer bridge program before they actually start, that is the best thing you could ever do for them.
I agree wholeheartedly. I actually just spoke at a summer bridge program about a month ago, and it's great. I mean, students are essentially getting that head start above other students in the school. And I know they're packed programs. There are so many things that go on during summer bridge. So 100% recommend that. And again, just being that support and knowing up front what all the resources are, because students are going from being so structured and told what to do. I heard somebody say students go from having to ask permission to use the bathroom, 1 month, and then a couple months later, now they're living on their own and they just have all this. So it can be a difficult transition for students, but I love those tips that you gave parents. So as we're wrapping up, I'll come back to this question, but can you please give one study tip for each learning style? And this is what somebody asked in the comments too. So somebody said they don't know their learning style. So how can they find that out? And then can you give a study tip for the different kinds? So kinesthetic, visual, auditory, and then the read-write learning style.
Yeah. So there are a lot of tests. And again, you can ask your high school counselor if they have a learning style test that your child can take. I imagine that there are free ones on Google. Again, there's always somebody trying to give out that because they want to serve you in some way, but you could also do that. So for the visual learner, you want to create things that will allow them to see it. So it could be a video, it could be looking through an art book, for example. It could be your biology, so now they have 3D. So you have apps that you can read and see things visually. You can actually manipulate things and turn things around that are from the visual standpoint. And for that visual person that's working, let's say, with another tutor, asking that tutor to show you what that looks like, or to give you an example of what that looks like. Those are all practical ways to make it visual. And then there's the auditory. That's the person that they can hear it and they pick it up right away. So, hearing a podcast, for example, might be the one way that they can learn it. Some instructors will allow you to record their lectures. So hearing it again, sitting in on the class. Maybe the instructor is teaching one section, and then you can come back and sit in on another section. That'd be entirely up to you, but that's another way to hear it again. So hearing it from different perspectives, sometimes hearing different voices can help with it. So I've had students who they sat in with their instructor, but then there was another instructor teaching the same class, and they understood it better from this other instructor. So just taking advantage of hearing it from different perspectives. Then there's the tactile person. That's that person that likes to touch it and feel it. A lot of my engineers are the tactile people. They like to, delve into it. And so you're doing anatomy, so you actually have to cut up on an insect. So you get the visual and you get the tactile with that. Or you're building things, you're creating things. A lot of the we have computer engineers, so they're creating a lot of the new technology that goes into cars and robots and so forth. So those things that allow you to hands-on design things and create things, I think that those are important ways, and do that for yourself. For example, let's say you're studying the human body, you get a model of the human body and you take it apart, and you name the different aspects. So that makes it more visual for you. And also it gives you the tactile because you're actually manipulating things with it as well. So tactile is the touching and creating. You're a child that likes to build all kinds of things in your house, take things apart and put things back together. That's a tactile learner. And then the last one that you mentioned, I hadn't heard much about that one.
The read write.
Okay.
So I think that one, I would say that's more me. I learn by reading and writing things out. If I can type it out, if I can get my thoughts on paper, or if I can read it on paper, that's definitely the best way, one of the best ways for me to learn. So I think that one is pretty self-explanatory, as far as it's reading the materials, taking notes in class, and then like reading other people's notes if you have a study group, reading the material over and over again. I think that's a good strategy. And so my last question before we wrap it up and I let you share anything that you would like. So the student who just says, I don't know where to start. I'm overwhelmed by studying. This is not something I'm used to. I know I should, but I'm just stuck. What would be the best first step for that student who feels overwhelmed by the word study?
Right. So for that person, I'd say, especially if they already have a syllabus, that go to the syllabus and then break it down and make it in small chunks of time in terms of, let's say there are 3 chapters that you have to read. You're just going to read a chapter a day. Whatever is not going to overwhelm you, but just be aware of your calendar and when things need to be done and when things need to be handed in. You in college, sometimes you need to drop a course. You can't do that in high school, but you actually can drop a course because sometimes you just feel overwhelmed with the amount of work that's required in the 5 courses that you have. But recognize that there's a deadline in which you must drop that course ahead of time. Make sure that you have that approved for your advisor in school. So, getting help, talking with your counselor about time management with the requirements of your individual courses, that's a wise thing to do and will help you. And again, you might have some taking anxiety that's going along with that. And that's why you're just not getting started, because that there is a test coming and you're concerned about how well you're going to be prepared. And so getting the preparation, I think, is key. And having that plan that you're going to follow is key as well. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm just talking to myself. So I was just thanking you because that was just such an amazing session. So many great things that you said. Somebody literally messaged me and said they want to book you. So and they're serious too. So this is the time where if you want to share where people can work with you, how students and families can work with you, where they can follow you. I know you have a podcast. I know you've authored other books. I know you do so much. So for those families, students who want to work with you, where can they start? For those who would like to book you and would like you to come speak to their students, how can everybody connect with you?
drjobsbooks.com is one place. You can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Stephen Jones, and I spell Stephen, STEPHEN. So LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram under Education Central, as well as my name, Dr. Stephen Jones. And you can also email me at STEPHENJONESS@rcn.com. Going back to my website, you can also join, if you join the newsletter, that will also allow you to send me some information that I can follow up with you and make sure that you're successful. And I am passionate about helping these students to have the resources to be successful and make sure you're right.
Awesome. I'm right. You hear me typing because I'm putting all of your information in the comments, so those who are watching live can go and follow you immediately. So that's just what I'm doing right now. And so I am putting that all in the comments so everybody can grab that. And then when I post the recording, I'll make sure to put all your information in the comments as well. And then what services do you provide to families and to students?
Oh, that's a good question. So again, I have all these books I've written. For schools, I provide workshops and seminars, webinars on all the various topics that I covered tonight. Sometimes I do a whole series where I'll do the workshop, 5 different workshops or 6 different workshops for a school or for an after school program like Gear Up or Talent Search or Upward Bound, all these different after school programs. So I'll do those depending on what the need is. Then I also have some online courses that individuals can take, and it's more of a self-paced course that they can take with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that.
You're welcome.
And then is there anything else you would like to share? I mean, this has been so tremendously just educational and beneficial, but is there anything else that you want to leave with?
Oh, okay. My podcast is on Spotify.
Yeah, please. Yeah, tell us about that.
Education Central. Just go Education Central and on Spotify, and you'll find me.
Awesome. Let me put that in the chat
All
right now too. Education Central, Spotify. And I said, I went on your podcast. You have so many episodes. How long have you been doing the podcast for?
At least 3 years. At least 3 years. So the average one is 12 to 14 minutes, but all kinds of education career topics.
I love that. And I'm dropping all of those in the comments. So anybody who's watching, I know we still have people watching, so definitely make sure to check all those out. But this has been so beneficial. Again, thank you so much for your patience as we work through our technical difficulties. Thank you to the viewers for your patience as we work through those technical difficulties. I think this has been such an informative session. If you have any questions that you didn't get answered or that you didn't even have until later, make sure to reach out to him. I put his email in the comments, so make sure to reach out. He is very, very responsive. And so I just thank you again, Dr. Jones, for being on here this evening. This has been a wonderful session. Thank you for your time, and look forward to talking soon.
Thank you so much.